Good morning. It's Ivy. Very few people know the truth about the last 12 years of my life. Um, I'm not quite ready to share those details yet, but even fewer people know about the truth of the last 12 months of my life. So, today's the day that I share that. Um, First, I'll tell you a little story about how I did post-induction therapy a few years ago. My friends Ingrid and Neil recommended it. It's basically like a really deep hypnosis to help you go back in your childhood and, help your younger self and all of that stuff. So I was like, I don't really believe in hypnosis or anything, but why not? I'll try it. So I went to see this woman, and she sat behind me and she led me through a guided exercise where I became, um, big me, at my age now, became very small and crawled through a long hole, long tunnel. And I came out the other side in front of my childhood home. And I saw everything from the color of the roof to the red rocks, that lined the pathway up to the door. And she guided me in the hypnosis, I guess, to go up to the door, to open it, and then to go into my childhood bedroom and to find my younger self, like little 6-year-old Ivy. And so I remember walking through the living room, walking up the little stairs to my room, and then opening my door and seeing all my childhood furniture, my bed, my desk. And I was like, okay, little Ivy, where are you, little Ivy? Looking for my little self, and I couldn't find her. And I told my therapist, I guess I was just talking out loud. I was like, I can't find her. I don't know where she is. Maybe she's not here. And she's like, look harder. Maybe she's hiding. So I'm looking underneath the covers, and I open the closet doors, and little Ivy is there, curled up in a little ball. And she looks scared. And I'm like, okay, hey, little Ivy, it's Big Ivy, and I'm here to save you. I'm here to take care of you. I'm here to rescue you. And she's terrified, and she's trembling. And I hear my dad coming up the stairs, and it's scary. And she curls up in an even smaller ball. I'm like, no, we need to go now. And so in the vision hypnosis, the therapist has, armed guards hold back my dad and hold back my mom while I'm saving my little Ivy. So I take her hand, and we go outside, and the therapist is like, okay, so there's a vehicle, to get you back to present day time safely. What is it? And I was like, at the time I didn't have a car. I was flying over the world, and I was like, it's a plane. And she said, okay, so you're in the back of the plane with little Ivy. Who's flying the plane? And I was like, I don't know, like my friend's flying the plane. And she was like, no, Ivy, your friend can't fly your plane. And I was like, what do you mean? Okay, well, I don't know, this person I'm dating is flying the plane. And she's like, oh no, Ivy, the person that you're dating can't fly your plane. And I was like, well, who the F is going to fly my plane then? And she goes, the only person or entity who can fly your plane ever is your higher self, is your, is spirit, is source, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, ooh, good point. Talk more about this some other time. But then we flew the plane back, and we land, and I'm really happy. And I'm like, hey, little Ivy, now you're here with me, and I can take care of you, and I can protect you. And in this hypnosis, little Ivy looks up at me, and she goes, I can't come with you. And I looked at her, and I was like, what? What do you mean? I just went back in time, and I saved you from the house, and why can't you come with me? And she looks at me, and she's like, well, it's not safe. I don't feel comfortable going with you. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I can take good care of you? Like, I'm a responsible adult. And she goes, no, with your life, you travel around the world, and you stay in all these different hotel rooms and Airbnbs, and that's not a safe place for a 6-year-old. You're seeing all these random people, and it's not safe. And I looked at her, and my heart broke. And I was like, wait, this is not supposed to be happening in my hypnosis. Like, she's supposed to be like, yeah, you saved me, and we're supposed to have this happy reunion. What is this? But part of me also knew that she was right. And so I asked her, so where do you want to go live? And she goes, well, I'll go live with your sister. Because my sister is like, super stable, hot, married, has a house, has 2 young children. She's like, I'll go play with a niece and nephew. And 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 I'll come back to you when it's safe. And so I was like, okay, all right. I'll remember you and I'll come back for you. And then at that point I was talking with the therapist and she was like, the best thing for you would be like a house and a dog. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's not in the cards right now. I've got stuff to do. So I forgot about little Ivy. Forgot about her. And a few years later, I had just left my work, my profession, my job of over 12 years, where I was at the top of my game, traveling the world, making tens of thousands of dollars a month, living this very social media, sexy lifestyle. And I'd given it up cold turkey for reasons I will explain why another time. But I went to another retreat in Costa Rica for Kundalini yoga with my friend Joe Polish, and chanting. It involved lots of chanting, so much chanting every morning, and I hated chanting. I was like, why are we doing this? I deny, like, why are we doing this? And every morning I would resist the chanting, annoyed, what is this? I hate chanting. So every morning chanting, and the 5th or 6th morning, I just kind of surrendered to it. All right, if we're gonna do chanting, I'll chant. So I'm chanting Apsahai Hoya Sacheda Sachedoya Hi Hi, and so we're chanting, and all of a sudden, little Ivy appears, and she's walking towards me, and my heart starts beating faster, and tears start filling up my eyes because I'd totally forgotten about her. And she comes up to me and she asks me, she's like, is it safe for me to come home yet? And I looked at her, and at the time I was trying to decide where I was going to be. Where am I going to live? Where am I going to stay? Who am I going to stay with, potentially? And I look at her and I'm like, wow, so good to see you. It's not time yet, but it will be. I promise. I'm working on it. And she curled up and she lay her head in my lap. And she was like, I hope it's soon. And I kept chanting, and tears were running down my face at this point. I was like, I love chanting. Little Ivy came back to me while I was chanting. So then, after that, I realized I had to find a place that would be safe for me. Couldn't live alone. I'll talk about why some other time, too. Can't stay with my sister in Texas because, she's got her life and her husband and 2 kids, and I need a space to do some deep healing work and mourning and grieving and processing and all that stuff. Couldn't stay with my sister in New York, couldn't stay with my sister in Boston, couldn't stay with my friends because just an imposition, and I needed a safe space. And at this point, I hadn't talked to my parents in years. So at one point while I was meditating, something came up where it's like, you need to go home to your parents. And I was like, F that. I am not going to talk to my parents. They are not people who are good people for me. And they're not safe and they're not nourishing. And if anything, it's just, if I subject myself to that, I'll just get abused again. I'll just get hurt again. But something was like, you have to call them and just go visit them and see what happens. So I was like, fine. So my parents had moved to Seattle, and I hadn't even visited them in their new house or anything. So I called them. My mom was like, oh, surprised to hear from me. And I was like, hey, Mom, so I'm going through a lot of really big changes. I stopped doing the work that I was doing for over 12 years.
I need a really safe place just to stay while I figure out my next step. And I don't, it's probably not with you and dad, but I should just probably come and say hi and, see how you are. And she was like, oh, yes, yes, come. That'd be good to see you. And I can tell that she's kind of walking on eggshells because I might leave again. And so I flew to Seattle. And, I saw my dad, who I haven't seen in a couple years. And dad is dad. He's at his computer. And I'm like, hi, dad. And he's like, he's dad. And, and my mom gives me a little tour of the home, and she's like, this is, and we walk across the upstairs, and she opens the door, and she looks at me, and she said, we always hoped that you would come home, and we kept this room for you in case you did. There's a desk, because we know you like to write. And if you want to stay here, you can stay here. And so I was like, okay, whatever, Mom. And so she left. And I sat down on the floor. And I don't know why, but I hadn't chanted since freaking Costa Rica. But I started chanting again. So I'm like sitting there, up so high, hoya, sachita, sachitoya, hi, hi, hi. So as soon as I did, little Ivy showed up. And she looked around and she goes, is this our room? And she looked at the bed and she goes, is this our bed? Do we have a bed to sleep in that's going to be our bed, the same bed every single night? And she looked at the closet and she was like, is this our closet where we can put clothes? And I said, this is not our forever home, but it's our home for now. And then she smiled and she ran into my arms and she said, I'm so happy to come back to you and I can come home to you now. This place is safe. And so I hugged her and I held her and I was like, this is so not social media sexy for me to be in my 30s, moving back home with my parents. But it's interesting. For many months last year, I made $0. I went from making 10, 15, 20, 25K a month to making $0 a month. September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, In May, I made $510. But at one point, I was sitting down and I was having a spaghetti dinner with my parents. And I was thinking about how in the past I was flying around the world eating at 3 Michelin star rated restaurants. Everything was covered in gold flakes. I was alone. And not really, very lonely. Taking pictures of it and posting on social media, being like, oh God, more gold flakes. And people are like, oh my God, your life is so cool. And I was feeling really empty on the inside. And eating a spaghetti dinner with my parents, who are older now, who are different now, and who I accept now for all of who they are. I'm not trying to force them to be anything different. I'm not trying to fight who they are. I've accepted them. And in doing that, I think there's been like an acceptance of me. And I was sitting there eating a spaghetti dinner and I was like, you know what? This is priceless. There are days when I won't be able to eat a spaghetti dinner with my parents. And I'm doing that now. And it's something I didn't even have, like, with that degree of peace when I was little. So, it's not fun to admit. It's not, once again, it's not like something you want to brag about all over social media. But, it's where I'm at now. And this whole journey has been crazy and continues to be. but it's perfect. And I'm so much more in my body and back home to myself and me again. I've come home to myself in the last year in the way that I have not been able to in the last 12. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm listening to me, and I'm allowing myself to be led and guided, not into what I think is the right thing, but to trust that somehow all of this is going to lead to something greater than I could ever imagine. So, oh, I wasn't expecting this morning. Part of me really doesn't want to share this with anybody, but I'm going to, because maybe if one person hears something that's helpful, it's worth it. So that is the true story of my last year, and I guess when the time comes, I'll share more about the rest of it. But this is where I'm at now. So thanks for watching, and take care of yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself. And know that you are so worthy of love, of compassion, forgiveness, connection. And if there's someone in your life who you haven't reached out to in a while, who would want to hear from you, even if it's scary, you should reach out. And even if you don't get the response or reaction that you want, you will know that you have done the right thing for you. And at the end of the day, that's all we can do. Do things from a place of love.